Good evening. I'm Suze Cooper. Welcome to VoiceWorks this evening. I'm here this evening with Peter Stewart, and we are going to be chatting a little bit about voice technology and about a story that's popped up in the news today about Alexa. So my name's Suze. As I say, I am a broadcast journalist with a local commercial radio station here in Kent, and I'm also completely fascinated with everything voice tech at the moment. And Peter, who are you? Tell us more.
Who am I? Who am I? Hello, I'm Peter Stewart. I've got around about 30 years. I know, you can hardly tell. Experience in professional radio and TV production and presentation, and also quite a bit of training as well. And met Suze, well, online first of all, then in real life. And together we're really interested in the whole kind of voice platform. And I guess that's a lot to do with our background in, well, professional broadcasting, professional radio, working for commercial stations and also the BBC. So, Suze, what are we talking about tonight?
So this evening we're going to be chatting about an article that's popped up on Mail Online, which is all about how parents are apparently using Alexa to read the evening bedtime story to their kids. So rather than picking up a book themselves and sitting there reading the fairy tales, getting them nice and sleepy and comfy, they're actually leaving that to Alexa. And in true Daily Mail style, they have gone to town and basically blaming good old voice tech for the loss of our bedtime story time, basically. Now, as a parent of three, I'm not too sure that this is anything particularly new, to be fair. My kids, we read a story and then they like to listen to their CD as they're falling to sleep. So actually, is there much difference between falling asleep to a CD or asking Alexa to read a bedtime story? I'm not too sure. So yeah, I think personally, as long as we're still sitting there having that reading time together, it's quite an extreme article kind of suggesting that people are literally kind of swapping the bedtime story routine for the Alexa device instead. I think as long as you're as a parent reading some stories with them during the day, or, you know, even before bed, and then asking Alexa to play a story, I kind of don't have a problem with it. I mean, what do you think, Peter?
So this has been reported in various newspapers in the UK and also various websites as well. A quarter of parents saying they've asked Alexa to do the job. Time poor is their reasoning behind that. But it doesn't go into too many other details about how Lexi is actually helping in this regard. So I don't know. Is it going to be a kind of a podcast that Lexi plays out for you, which is maybe a Harry Potter podcast or a Harry Potter audio book, maybe read by Stephen Fry or something like that? Or is it something like Lexi herself reading a bedtime story, which I would have problems with? Or is it something like a novel effect? And we'll come to that in a few moments' time. But have you read anything about whether it's audio played by a human being or whether it's Lexi read, Suze?
No, I haven't actually. Now you come to mention it, I've not really. I don't think that information particularly was in the article that I was looking at. But I do think you're right in that it does kind of matter whether or not it's the AI, the Alexa voice, or whether it's a human voice. There is definitely more of a connection to that human voice, and I know a lot of the work that we're doing with flash briefings and with small businesses, kind of giving them some tips on how they can do their flash briefings and things. We're kind of trying to promote the fact that using your own voice actually gives much more human experience, and we get an awful lot out of voice that you just don't get the nuance out of the robotic Alexa voice. We really build connections through voice more than we can tell. There's such a lot of psychology and kind of subconscious stuff that goes on when we hear someone's voice. We get a lot of detail, a lot of emotion in there, and certainly, you know, Alexa doesn't have that emotive sense. So I think you're right in terms of, you know, if they're relying on a skill that is perhaps the Alexa voice, perhaps that's not quite so great as listening to a human being like Stephen Fry, who will bring those words off the page better than any parent, I would suggest, ever could anyway. And that would actually be an amazing audio experience for a kid to really spark their imagination.
I think you're right, as you so often are. However, I think that it's more than just reading. It's the bonding time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the slowing down of pace time. It's the offloading time. It's the snuggling time. It's that opportunity for mum or dad, as well as reading the story, to presumably talk about things that have happened in the child's day and going back, perhaps some of the what perhaps we might call in business, the key learning points of the day about where the child was perhaps upset or happy, or what they enjoyed or what they remembered about the day. It's also a chance for the child perhaps to offload as well, that something that maybe they wouldn't tell mum or dad during the course of the day, but there in the quiet, the safety of their bedroom, things are winding down, they may say something else that perhaps they wouldn't come out maybe round the dinner table, or on the drive home from school, or the walk home from the swimming club, or whatever it happens to be. Plus, I think when you're telling a story, there's other kind of learning points that mum and dad, or parent, guardian, whoever it happens to be, can kind of build in to that. It's not just reading the words on the page. It's also saying, what do you think about that? Or what do you think is going to happen next? Or did you think she'd done the right thing in the story? Those kinds of things. Plus, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know, it's probably much easier for a parent to go back and read that same page over and over and over and over and over again, and just go straight to the, inverted commas, best bits that the kid actually wants at that time.
Yeah. And I think everything that you've said there is right. It is that side by side time, if you like. Generally people open up more if you're not kind of face to face directly chatting away, and it does give you that. However, I do still think that there's kind of room for this tech to be used kind of in this way, but as with everything, people go nuts about, kids watching too much screen time, there's too much tablet, there's too much TV. I think everything in moderation is fine. And actually, unless you're completely relying on the Alexa voice reading the story, and that's the only avenue that your children have really got to hearing these things, then I kind of don't see that there's a huge problem with it. And also there are actually points where if a parent's literacy themselves isn't that great, if this is the way that a child can access something that they otherwise wouldn't be able to, then actually I don't see any problem with it at all. I think it opens up, it gives those children the chance to hear these stories that they wouldn't have heard before. Perhaps English is a second language. Perhaps mum or dad isn't confident reading out aloud. There's a whole host of reasons why you might want to use a CD or this new tech, on Alexa to hear the stories. I just think in moderation, all of these things, and there are definitely reasons why this would be a good thing.
I also wonder about the policing. Now, I don't know whether you can help me with this, but of course, once you've uploaded a certain kind of content and you've gone through the through the account processing, through those hurdles and so on, and you are a approved developer, then there's nothing to stop you maybe uploading something which maybe isn't appropriate for little ears. Maybe if you were particularly rogue, I don't know why you would want to do it, but heck, there's lots of things that go on in the world where sensible people think, why would you even do that? How would you even think of that? Like manipulating kids' videos on YouTube, for example, and that kind of thing. One could set up a developer account, upload some pretty innocuous, fantastic kid stories, and then start putting in, rude words, inappropriate storylines, or even advertising, couldn't you?
Sorry. I was just going to say, I actually think that is a wider problem than just for the children's, the kind of children's ears. I've actually considered this myself with the flash briefings. I know you're putting together flash briefings as well. You're right in that you're, as an Amazon developer, as an Alexa developer with one of these accounts and the dashboard that you get and everything else, you have to go through the certification and the validation. But you do that once, and you do that once at the start. And even then, I'm not quite sure. I mean, are people actually sitting there listening to the full content that you're putting out there? I don't really know. I mean, it certainly has taken one of my flash briefings. It took 6 hours to be validated. Another one took 2 days. I'm not sure what the delay was in that or what the difference was. However, that is the one piece of content that I would suggest they've heard of mine. From then on, who knows? I'm not quite sure how that can continue, how that validation can continue from Amazon without them. Perhaps they're spot listening, perhaps they're checking, quality assessing, picking out some every day to listen to check. But I think there is a huge issue certainly with political broadcasting, news, all that kind of thing, that could be a huge loophole that people could really manipulate if they don't tighten up on it.
And I'm pretty sure that there is somewhere on the on the Lexi app that you can go to the page of that developer, and then you can actually report them for inappropriate content. But we've always said, haven't we, how difficult it is to actually discover content. So for people to discover your content and then discover how to report inappropriate stuff, and whether they would actually want to do that and how they would do it, and also what that time period is for something to be dropped or processed the other end, I'm not entirely sure. Let me tell you about Novel Effect, if you haven't heard about it. Now, have you heard about Novel Effect, first of all?
No, tell me more.
And it is really superb. And this is something that our good friend Bradley Metrock highlighted when he was over in London at the Digital Publishers Conference a couple of months ago. Although he has spoken about it before, and I've heard it on other podcasts. Really worth checking out. Intriguing stuff. Novel Effect does not play you anyone, whether it be Lexi or a human being, reading a story. Doesn't do that. But let me give you an example which is appropriate to today. Maybe your kid loves hearing The Tiger That Came to Tea. So you get that book out, you activate the part of Novel Effect, which is the skill, and you find The Tiger That Came to Tea on Novel Effect, and you set it running, you set it listening. So you, mum or dad, starts reading the book. What Novel Effect does is, because it knows what book you are reading, it follows along with you. And when you get to certain points in the book, it plays the appropriate sound effects. Someone walks through the door, we've got a creak of a door open. The tiger roars, and I don't know the story, forgive me. The tiger roars, and then you hear the tiger roaring in the background. Dad comes home from work, and you hear...
Dad saves the day.
They go down to the cafe for their for their meal, their tea. At the end of it, you hear the ding ding of the cafe door opening, and you perhaps hear the sound of hubbub and sausages being cooked, or whatever it happens to be. And that, I think, is really unique. It's different, and boy, oh boy, is it engaging. And it sounds to me as though that's probably the best of every world.
Yeah, and I think that is completely an example where this voice tech, and a skill can enhance an experience. And I think that is really the future of these skills, and the future of this technology is where it can enhance something that was, something that we did before, but it adds something to it. And I think that kind of listening experience would be amazing. And in fact, I'll be off to go and check that out after this. Yeah, so Novel Effect, great skill.
Absolutely. Suze, I think that's about wraps things up for this evening's episode. We'll be back tomorrow because Friday, we've got something special lined up, always on a Friday. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Same kind of time here, right here on our Facebook page of Voice Works. And also, Suze, you've got a couple of kind of community notices, I'm sure, about a couple of things which are happening next week, Monday and Tuesday, if people are in and around London and the southeast of England.
Yeah, that's right. There's a meetup happening on Monday evening at the Horniman pub at Hayes Galleria, just off Tooley Street in London. There's a few of us that are going to be catching up from the voice community, and there's some special guests coming over from America who we're quite looking forward to meeting. So Scott and Susan are coming over, and we are looking forward to seeing them and talking voice technology for the evening. And then on Tuesday, it's the UX Crunch meetup, which is happening, I believe, at Amazon UK in London. And again, another one that I'm really looking forward to heading over and being part of. Both of those are actually available on Eventbrite if you want to sign up. So just pop in there, put voice in the search and London in the venue, and they should pop up for you there so that you can sign up and let us know that you're coming along.
And also, don't forget that Suze and I are presenting a very special, session, seminar, workshop, presentation, whatever you want to call it. But it's not techie at all. What it is, it's an introduction to voice. We've been fortunate enough to have been asked by Amazon UK HQ in London, just near Liverpool Street Station, to present a seminar, workshop, presentation, couple of hours, all to do with voice. But it's really kind of baby step stuff. It's if you think you should know about voice but you don't, then make sure you sign up. We'll be talking about this, I'm sure, over the next few weeks as well. Thanks very much indeed. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm Tweeter Stewart, TWWTERSTEWART.
And I'm at Big Tent Social. So come along, follow us both, check out what we're doing. And we'll see you again tomorrow night.
Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.